Hello, welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and today I kind of got a serious question to ask you guys. So, let me just put this on native 1440p. We're at native 1440p with high settings. We're running this on the 7800 XT. As you can see, we are pretty much just under 60 frames a second. I found that coming into this wooded area kind of gives you a representation of what you kind of get into when you're out in the wooded areas in here, and then you can get up over 60 if you look at the sky. You can get into the hundreds. So I mean, frame rate's pretty variable in this game at native resolution on a 7800 XT. A little bit. For the most part, I mean, you could definitely play like this and it probably wouldn't bug you too much as long as you have a FreeSync display or something like that. But that's pretty much the gist of it for like 1440p. If you want to utilize ray tracing, yes, you are going to have to use some. You're definitely going to have to be utilizing the FSR a lot for that, and potentially different areas, but you're pretty much going to get like a 30 frames per second experience, a little bit over, a little bit less maybe. So all right, now this is native resolution. As you can see back there, you've got the fence kind of flickering, stuff like that. To me, that kind of stuff doesn't really bug me too much. You're sitting right here, you're looking at the little bike rack things behind the truck right here. You kind of get that little bit of flicker on the straight edges, even on native resolution. So I mean, to me that argument just kind of is like stupid, to be completely honest with you. So if we go into options and then we take this to quality FSR, that there bumps us up into the 80s, therefore making it a pretty decent experience. If you look back there at the fence line, it doesn't flicker as much, but you actually get a little bit more stability out of that while you're standing still, but you can still kind of see that flicker when you're walking. If you look up at the sky, you can get 120 frames a second, whatever. Still fairly variable, but definitely always over the 60 FPS. Even when we get into here in the wooded areas, you are still going to be over 60 FPS. But if you look at the image quality, yes, it does look a little bit softer. Obviously, you can obviously see that the image quality, especially in the distance, starts to get a little bit softer. So what do? We go into options, we come back over here to graphics, and we simply utilize virtual super resolution, and we go up a couple notches. Let's try 4K. So 4K is going to make that basically 1440p. So now we're going to be back to our regular frame rate, maybe a little bit less. We get in here, now we're getting into the 40s. Out here we're in the 50s or whatever. We're looking up. We're still not getting that 120, but now when you look at the area behind us, it's a lot sharper. It looks a lot better, a lot cleaner. Everywhere you look, it just looks cleaner. But now we've lost some of that frame rate that we worked so hard to get by utilizing FSR. So what we do is we go back into options, go back over to graphics, and instead of 4K, we drop that down to 1800p. And we get back into our game. And now we're over the 60 frames a second. We still have our sharpness in the background. When we get into wooded areas, we are still going to be going down just a little bit. We're still in the upper 60s. We're right around 59, 60. So, I mean, you can theoretically utilize that and not really feel much of a difference that way. You're not really gaining a whole lot of instability in the straight lines, but you can see it obviously in the farther distance stuff where it's not as close as it would be normally with just regular FSR. So yes, you still get it in the distance, but not when you're at close range. I mean, obviously when you move, it's obviously gonna flicker. You know what I mean? Obviously, you got the load in for the fence right there. when you get closer to it, you know, you can see the fence things loading in. So that's a loading thing that's even on native. But as you run around, you're consistently over the 60 FPS mark, which is usually fairly good for this. Now, if we go in here to options, we come back over to graphics and we take this down to 1600. Let's go to performance. And then you get even more of a boost, but you still get that overall clarity. You still get really good clarity that obviously looks better than if you were like at 1440p and going to, if you were at 1440p and you were going to, and you were utilizing ultra performance to get more frame rate. So let me show you that real quick. Let's go over to ultra performance on here. And this is when we start to get a little bit less clarity in the background, but still on par or better than the 1440p with utilizing ultra performance. And now we are almost to 100 frames a second on this. Definitely a lot more stable. I personally recommend, if you're going to do this, probably try the balanced one and see if we can just stay over 60 frames per second, because I think balanced is going to give you the best overall experience. Even in the wooded areas, you're still going to be in the 60s and you're still going to have pretty clean image quality because you're not going down that far. So this is on the 7800 XT. On the 7900 XT, you can obviously push that a little bit higher. You can actually go up to 4K, even 6K, and still get this type of a frame rate. The 7900 XT is actually a beast when it comes to virtual super resolution. Obviously, you're stuck within the framework of the 7800 XT. 4K is usually going to be your upper bounds for utilizing virtual super resolution in conjunction with FSR, as well as, you know, like if you're wanting ray tracing and stuff. So let me just show you that real quick. So we are at the graphics menu. We're still at 1800p. So now we're going to drop this all the way down to ultra performance, which is essentially 600p upscaled. All of this stuff is high. Everything is set to the maximum. But as what we're going to do is we're going to jump on over here to ray tracing. We're going to kick that on, and you're going to be at about 40 frames a second. Just running around in here. Obviously you get a little bit more flicker because we are lowering that overall resolution. You're going to get a little bit of blur in the background, but you still get all of the ray tracing lighting effects. I think if you run in here, yeah, you're going to stay about 30 frames a second inside like the wooded areas and stuff. And this is if you absolutely have to have the ray tracing enabled. This is the best way to get it there. I mean, you might be able to try like one notch up on there on performance mode, but that there's going to leave you, that's going to cut off a lot of your frame rate. So I personally would just stick to the ultra performance if you've got to have ray tracing. It doesn't look horrible, but it doesn't really necessarily give you the best overall image quality because it does start to look pretty grainy on like these water surfaces and stuff. I mean, obviously the ray tracing still stays there, but it does look a little bit more grainy. I mean, this would have, you would literally have to be like, okay, yeah, that looks good to me. That to me looks really, really good with all the ray tracing. But I mean, just look at this image right here. And then if we go into the options and we go back to this and we turn off this ray tracing. And then you look at this image quality. It does look a little bit cleaner, but we're still on the ultra performance, which does not look completely terrible. But if you go back in here, now you can go back to your balanced quality. And see, that even looks a lot cleaner. So I personally, this here is probably the way I would have played it on the 7800 XT. Is I probably would have used 1800p. I would have dropped that down to balanced resolution so I could continue to get that sharpness. Because in my opinion, the only thing that we're not getting that DLSS would give us is stability on those straight lines. That's it. Everything else looks incredible. You've got great looking detail. The image quality looks more dense. To me, DLSS always like over sharpens things, and I get that like some people really like that look. I personally do not like that over sharpened look. I like this right here, where it just looks super freaking good and dense, and all the visuals look good. The materials look incredible. Like it feels like there's a lot more fidelity in this than if you over sharpened it. Let me see if I can over sharpen this through the software. Gosh dang it. Let's go into gaming, graphics. Let me see, sharpen effect. So if I turn the sharpen effect all the way up, let's see if that will in fact over sharpen this. It's not going to over sharpen it as much as I wanted it to. Yeah, dude, I'm not going to be able to over sharpen this as much as I wanted it to. But I feel like this looks absolutely incredible. Once you start like getting into over sharpening and stuff, to me that just kind of takes away all the the look to the game. Like I love that dense look. I don't like that hard, sharp, crisp look when it comes to my video games anymore. I just prefer this. That's probably why I like AMD so much, is because everything, and I'm the same way with the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox. The Xbox has that more softer look that we get on this game right here versus like the PlayStation 5. And I first noticed that with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. On the Xbox, it looked great. It looked really good and colorful and nice and you know, like softer edges. It looked more dense. And then I get over on the PlayStation 5 and it just looks sharp and crisp, and I do not like that look anymore. Like it was fine on like Xbox One, Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro. It was kind of cool, you know, because I was like, oh yeah, look at that sharpness. But then when we started getting into like the more dense visuals, you know, the higher fidelity visuals, I do not like that over sharpened look on these higher fidelity visuals. I don't think it looks good. I think it looks way too gamey. Where this right here looks gamey, but it also looks good. Like it's got like a better artistic touch to it with the way that this looks. And yes, I was able to figure out what the heck was going on with that water over here. It was just something that was in the settings or something, you know, like when I was standing right here and I was bumping the camera up and down. It was just some setting, but this looks incredible, man. Like this looks so much better when you have a higher resolution and you utilize virtual super resolution to downsample that to like 1440p or whatever. The point is to push your resolution as high as you can possibly go, and then utilize your FSR, because that instantly cleans up FSR. It makes FSR look so much better, because if you're at like 4K, 6K or whatever, and then you turn on your virtual super resolution, that means your initial and you go to like ultra performance, that bumps up the quality to what, like 1080p if you're at 6K. So that bumps up the quality, and if you're at 8K, it bumps it up to 1440p. So that's your lower resolution, and that scales from your resolution. So the higher up in the resolution you go before kicking on it on, you know, to your ultra performance virtual or FSR, that's gonna instantly scale up that quality to that 6K image. And then when you downsample it to like a 1440p monitor or even a 4K TV, you're still going to get pristine looking image quality with that performance gain. Now, the whole point of it is to try to get you back to 60 frames per second. Like, to utilize this, you're just trying to get a playable frame rate, something that is playable for you, but then still deliver that extensive image quality. And notice in this video, we did not lower our settings. The only thing we're not utilizing is the ray tracing, just because I don't think it adds any real quality to this game overall. Like, yeah, the reflections and stuff might look good or whatever, but the performance hit that you suffer for something like ray tracing, to me, it isn't worth it. Like, I don't care about ray tracing. None of the freaking graphics cards out there right now can really utilize it without having to utilize extreme amounts of upscaling and all of that stuff. So at that point, like, why put yourself in a position to where you have to spend upwards of $1,000 to acquire a GPU that is capable of actually running that at a good resolution and being able to keep higher settings to where it looks good enough to where you're not going to be at a significant disadvantage. Now, I mean, you can say like, oh, 4070 Ti will blah blah blah, but in reality, how long is that going to last? Once the ray tracing gets even more complicated than it already is, if they're already starting to use path tracing and the 4070 Ti is barely able to utilize that on a game like this, yeah, like, seriously, that card I was going to buy one the other day when I bought this card, and it was like $900. The AIB that was in stock was like 900 and something bucks after tax, and I was like, no, man, it was closer to 950 than it was to $800. So I was like, no, I'm just going to buy a 7800 XT and cover this card as extensively as possible. So that there should give you a little bit more understanding of why I like AMD more than I like the NVIDIA. I just do not really care much for that over sharpening, and I just don't think that ray tracing is at a point where it's affordable for the common man. And at this point right now, I don't necessarily need it in my gaming. I would prefer much higher frame rates than what I would be able to justify spending on a graphics card, because I'm pretty sure even a 4090 at 4K with full ray tracing and everything enabled on this at native resolution was like 32 frames a second. It's like not even a 4090 can actually run this game with all of those bells and whistles natively at 4K. Like, it just can't. It's a 30 FPS game on a 4090. So that there should tell you everything you need to know if you're going to spend that much money on something and then have to utilize, like, you have to utilize all of that stuff just to get your game playable. And so, I mean, if you're going to utilize stuff to get a game to be good, why not go for this? In my opinion, this just looks better and it plays incredible at 80 frames a second, upscaled to 1800p, and then downsampled to 1440p. This absolutely looks incredible, and it looks incredible on a 4K screen as well. And so you can use this to play it at 4K, or you can use this to play it at 1440p. And either way, it looks incredible with max settings. This is a beautiful game, very fun, but I would prefer the fluidity on this game over the ray tracing any day of the week. Any day of the week, to be completely honest with you. People might say I'm just I'm coping or whatever. I'm not coping. I'm seriously not coping. I could easily go out and buy one of your little special NVIDIA GPUs, but I don't care to give NVIDIA any more money. I don't. When there's something this good for like a fraction of the price, why would you? Why would you? I mean, like, yeah, I guess I get your argument about wanting to, like, yeah, we want to see the future and stuff, but it's like, no, dude, they're going to bring it to you incrementally at the most money they can drag out of you. Why not just wait until it's, a few years later? Seriously, wait 2 more generations and you'll be able to have your cake and eat it too for an affordable price. Like, seriously. But I don't feel like NVIDIA's lower end cards are ever going to be that good of a value. They're always going to be either limited by VRAM. They're either going to be limited by VRAM, or they're going to be limited by the bandwidth or something like that. Because every generation they're always like, oh yeah, the 4060 is better than the or is like a 80 class card or something every time.
I need to go back.
We can't go up there.
Got a
I
case
want to
to
go up
solve.
there. I know we got a case to solve, but I wanted to like walk around and really explore this place and see what's going on over here. Come on, Saga, let's go. I personally 100% played through this whole game. I played through it on the 7900 XT. It was absolutely incredible. I played it at high frame rates with high visual quality, and it was great. Now the 7900 XT does actually get you a better experience because you can bump that upper resolution up higher, so you can get a better looking image with being able to downsample back down to like 1440p and stuff. But yeah, this is why I like virtual super resolution. This is why I like AMD's graphics cards. I think they are absolutely incredible, and I feel like they make it easier for you to find this type of stuff so that you can tailor the experience better without having to spend a whole lot of time playing around with stuff. You just set your resolution, or you just set what frame rate you're comfortable playing at, and here you go, man. Like, I get to play this on a 7800 XT with max settings at 80 to 90 frames a second with beautiful visuals, and like not a whole lot of the, you know what I mean? Like, there's no visual downgrade whatsoever by upscaling from where I'm upscaling to this higher resolution. Like, there's no downside. This looks better than 1440p native. And it really does. So, all right, my friends, if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching this video and all the other videos that you guys watch that I make. I don't know why it's kicking me out of the thing. So, we'll see you guys later.